what some of the frustrations that you've experienced, especially in trying to, recover this money? We can look at the diaspora aspect of it. Many I know also are beneficiary of HELP as well, and I know around 6 million you can actually collect from diaspora. Have you been able to achieve this, or what are some of the hurdles that you've experienced along the way?
So we started our diaspora strategy sometimes in 2014, and we were very clear why we started the diaspora strategy. It is because one of the challenges is that because of this migration, it is now estimated that we have about 3 million Kenyans, in the diaspora. Of course, North America is the one that is leading with all this. And why North America? Of course, you remember the original, airlifts. The airlifts have actually continued beyond, the first ones by Tomboya. And most of the people do their first degree here, but they go to do their second and, PhD degrees in America, in particular Canada, the entire of North America, UK, quite a number of them. So it means that most of them actually went to school here, and therefore they were funded by HELB. But there were no mechanics of being able to reconnect with them to tell our story on why do they need to pay. I met a guy in UK, for example, who told me, I am a citizen of UK. I have seen that I'll be buried here. Show me one good reason why I shouldn't pay this loan back, and I'm not a Kenyan citizen. I just threw in the can of Wetu. You are educated, you have the responsibility of educating future generations. And the guy wrote a check straight away. And therefore, it convinced us that if you can just get to the heart of these people, they will be part and parcel of this Wetu business that we are doing for, funding for students for future generations. And therefore, we went to America. We were in churches. In those churches, you give your testimony. Imagine you stood on our shoulders and you saw the world. It is your responsibility to make another person now stand on our, HELB shoulders. Mm-hmm. And if we don't have enough resource base, then it means even that future generation cannot stand on the shoulders to see, the world. Mm-hmm. And we have seen quite very good traction. Out of the 3 million Kenyans who are outside there, we think they are owing us about 2.2 billion of the very 6 billion hardcore debt that we have been trying to pursue here. And we have seen an increase, year on year. The other big challenge that we have with the diaspora is when they read about governance lapses in this country. COVID billionaires, I don't know what. They feel like HELB also. Why shouldn't I pay this government which is... So they don't really understand that by paying back, you're actually educating the future. And that is the conversation now we have with them. And some of these channels that we are using is to communicate to them that by paying HELB back, you're actually educating the future. We have a clear mandate. We are focused in terms of getting future generations to school so that we can be able to empower their dreams.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. So how does also the Ministry of Foreign Affairs come into play in aiding you also try and, engage with the diaspora? Because I know critically, diaspora is one of the four pillars of diplomacy that we have in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We have also association and alliances like the Kenya Diaspora Alliance as well. Do you engage with these particular forums at the ministry in terms of trying to, execute your mandate?
So you do recall that most of these countries, actually, where we have a high commissioner or, an office, yes, there is always an education attaché. So if you look at UK, if you look at Washington, if you look at Canberra in Sydney, you find that there is always an attaché. So we use mainly those attaches. But notwithstanding, if you look at the foreign diaspora policy within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, student financing is actually mentioned there. So when they have, we have signed an MOU with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, so that our contacts there, who is the ambassador, can be able to help us on this event when they are coming up. So like if, Kenyans in the park, for example, the other day when we were in UK, it is the ambassador who wrote to us and said, this event is actually coming up. You guys, you need to come over. So you find the same happening in Washington when there are some activities in US. The challenge with US is very big. And when you have a big country like US, then what we do is that we go now for those organizations that you're talking about. If it is, the tribe organization like Mwenyegitingi, for example, which is a Kizi one, or the one of, Kalenjin, as long as they come together, or the churches, there are quite a number of Kenyan churches. If you look at Gigi's church in Atlanta, if you look at Upendo Church in Dallas, all these, we have now connections with them. In fact, one of the key events that HELB participate now is the Pastors Diaspora Conference, which happens every 2 years. And we talk to about 600 pastors who are in North America at one show, and then they will tell you, come to my church here. And we follow them in those churches, and we have a lot of conversation in those areas. The other concept is that we have found out in the diaspora is that the diaspora really don't know what is happening in this country. And there are many things that are happening in this country. One of them, for example, is TVET. And the conversation you find in the diaspora is, you guys are coming here to fundraise money here and get money here, and my brother at home, you refuse to give him or her money. So I would never pay my loan because I'm paying for my brother. You pay back your kitty, and then if your brother and or sister if your sibling does not get money from HELB, ask me. This is my email. This is my phone number. Call me. Now, what we realized was that actually, those guys were being double dealt. So that guy would come to HELB, he will get his facility, and then will tell the sister, the brother who is in the diaspora, by the way, government is not giving us money. And most of them actually, when I come back with the checklist, go and check for me this one, you find all of them are on our payment program. And those guys have been told that these guys are not paying us. So when I tell them and I show them, look, your brother, we funded him on this date. Yes. The guy says, now I'm going to send him there, and I'm now going to start repaying my loan. So that is part of the Wetu conversation that we are trying to get to the diaspora on exactly what is happening in this country. Yes.
Fantastic. When we're talking about the Universal Fund as well, we talk about the Big Four agenda. How does also HELB shake into place with SDG? I know we have those 17 goals, the Sustainable Development Goals. And as I mentioned earlier in my intro, the world now is, focusing and getting traction on sustainability. We are talking about the people, we are talking about the planet, we are talking about profit. So it's not about just profit that you actually, looking at the baseline of your P&L margin, but it's also about the people. And SDG 4, it's education for all,
yes,
which fits snugly with what you're doing, empowering dreams.
Yes.
Tell us how also you're trying to mesh this with the SDG goals.
So if you look at the current strategic plan, which we call HELB Agenda 2019-2023, it's bedrock, or it is supported heavily by the SDGs themselves, Vision 2030, the Big Four agenda, and the EU 2063, yes, on the Africa we want. So those are the 4 main development plans, international and local, that we are actually benchmarking ourselves. Particularly looking at the SDGs, we not only look at SDG number 4, we have others, for example, SDG number 1, elimination of hunger. The money that we give to our students is part and parcel of making sure that this child is going to class when they are full, because we have an upkeep component. One of the key things we have now challenged government is that we don't think our upkeep is enough to keep the student throughout the year. So we have focused on elimination of hunger in higher education, even as they go to school. So that is SDG number 1. Out of the 17 of them, we have hived about 8 SDGs that we are part and parcel of. If you look at taking care of our climate, for example, of our environment, one of them is the aspect we do in terms of greening. The country, by planting trees, as a country now, we are determined to do about 1.8 billion, seedlings across the entire country. So when we looked at how sustainable can we become in terms of making sure that those trees are actually, will be tended until they grow up, we then partnered last year with Nairobi School. And one of the key things is that we have the numbers in Nairobi School, plus our staff, plus we went to the Kenya Universities and Placement Service Board in terms of their staff. And what was very interesting in that conversation was that apart from planting trees, We have people now who can take care of the trees so that they can be able to grow up. But then we are under conversation with the student in terms of their career, which was done by KUCCPS. And then we told them, yours is just to pass this exam. And the next thing, HELB will come in to empower that dream you have in your mind. I still remember a kid who told me, I want to do journalism, but my main focus is to become a DJ. And I don't know how he is doing today. Maybe he was to get out last year. I don't know whether he got out and what he is pursuing at the university now. So that's part of one of the SDGs in terms of taking care of the environment. You have already mentioned SDG number 4. Of course, lifelong learning for all. Why we extended our loans up to PhD level was that aspect of lifelong learning. That it is not only the first degree, it's not only the diploma, but lifelong learning. You can always come back to us and we'll be able to give you. Look, we have talked about partnerships. And when you look at SDG number 17, it is sustainable partnerships. And that is where we came in and saying, let's partner together to carry this burden of educating Kenya together. So we have these partnerships that we are developing with development partners, with the counties, with the constituencies, with individuals, with corporates, with foundations. All of them is part and parcel of that SDG number 17. And therefore, we have borrowed heavily in terms of what SDG want to achieve by 2030 and exactly what we are doing to see that we are aligned completely so that the two institutions then can be able to work together.
Interesting.